Cornwall, a land where jagged cliffs meet the restless sea, where ancient stone circles whisper of forgotten gods, and where narrow lanes lead to villages steeped in mystery. It is a place of smugglers, fishermen, and miners, but also of ghosts. Tonight we'll take a journey through this rugged county, stopping at some of its most haunted locations. From windswept moors to crumbling castles, from pagan stones to shadowed prisons. We will walk together through Cornwall's haunted history. So keep close. The paths are old, the mists are thick, and not all who wander here are living. Our tour begins on Bodmin Moor. The winds howl across the desolate expanse, and the fog clings to the ground like a shroud. Rising out of this bleakness stands Jamaica Inn, one of Cornwall's most notorious landmarks. Built in 1750, it quickly became a haven for smugglers, thieves, and those who thrived in the lawlessness. They say contraband from brandy to silk was hauled across the moors under the cover of darkness, hidden in secret cellars beneath the inn. Travellers unlucky enough to cross paths with these men sometimes never reach their destination. It's no wonder Jamaica Inn's walls have soaked up centuries of fear. One of the most reported spirits here is that of a man who stumbles drunkenly through the courtyard. He is often seen heading for the door, but vanishes before reaching it. No one knows who he is, but locals whisper he may have been one of the smugglers, betrayed and murdered by his own kind. Guests often hear heavy boots pacing the upper floors when no one is there, or the faint sound of horses' hooves outside when the courtyard is empty. A former manager once described the experience of hearing voices speaking Cornish in the dead of night, a language she didn't understand, yet the sound of it chilled her blood. And then there is the bar. Staff have spoken of icy drafts sweeping through the room, glasses moving by themselves, and sudden silences, as though someone invisible had just joined them at the tables. Author Daphne du Maurier visited Jamaica Inn in 1930, and her time there inspired her to write her famous novel of the same name, a story of smuggling, murder, and menace. Some say she too felt the presence of those long-dead rogues when she stayed within its walls. So when you raise a glass in the Jamaica Inn, remember, you may not be drinking alone. Leaving the inn behind, we travel deeper into Cornwall's dark past. Looming over Bodmin is a prison whose very stones seem to exhale misery. Bodmin Jail, built in 1779 under the orders of King George III. It was once a model of modern incarceration. But modern in the 18th century meant damp cells, meagre rations, and public executions that drew cheering crowds. Over 50 hangings took place here. The condemned were marched to the scaffold, prayers on their lips and curses on their tongues. Many were executed for crimes that today seem pitiful: theft, poaching, even forging a coin. One of the jail's most infamous inmates was Selina Wadge, executed in 1878. She had drowned her young son in a well. On the day of her hanging, she wept and clutched a white handkerchief as she mounted the scaffold. Today, visitors claim to see a woman in Victorian dress, wringing her hands and sobbing in despair. Others report the sensation of a small child's hand slipping into theirs, only to vanish when they look down. Another spirit is thought to be William Hampton, the last man hanged at Bodmin in 1909. He was just 24 years old, convicted of strangling his teenage lover. His restless presence is said to stalk the execution pit, a reminder of a life cut short. Paranormal investigators have recorded sudden drops in temperature, disembodied screams, and shadows that dart from cell to cell. Some claim to have been shoved or grabbed by unseen hands. In one chilling account, a visitor fainted after feeling a tightening around her neck, as though the rope of the gallows had found her. Standing in Bodmin jail is to stand with the dead. The air is thick, the walls weep with damp, and the cries of the condemned echo endlessly. From the gallows, we turn towards the sea, to a place where legend and history entwine. Perched upon a cliff, battered by Atlantic waves, lie the ruins of Tintagel Castle, forever linked with the legend of King Arthur. It is said that Merlin himself once walked these shores, and that Arthur was conceived within these walls. Whether you believe the stories or not, the site has an aura that words can scarcely capture. Visitors have reported seeing ghostly knights patrolling the ruined battlements, spectral figures vanishing into the mist. Strange lights have also been witnessed flickering among the crumbling walls, and the sound of hoofbeats sometimes echo across the cliffs when no horses are near. Local folklore tells of a woman in white who appears on the bridge leading to the castle. Some say she is Morgana, Arthur's half-sister, forever watching the sea. Others believe she is a forgotten soul, bound to the ruins for eternity. One chilling tale comes from the caves below Tintagel, particularly the one known as Merlin Cave. More than a handful of visitors have described hearing whispers carried on the wind within the cave, as if a voice is speaking in ancient tongue. One man swore he heard the words, "The king shall return." The line between myth and haunting is blurred here, but one thing is certain. Tintagel is a place where the past lingers, restless and eternal. Our next stop is Pengusick Castle, near Pras Sands. Unlike Tintagel's grandeur, Pengusick is small, almost unassuming, yet its reputation for hauntings is vast. Built in the 16th century, the castle was owned by the Pengusick family, who were notorious even in their own time. One lord was accused of murder, another of dabbling in the occult. Some say their sins cursed the very stones. The most common apparition here is a monk, seen gliding through the corridors. He does not speak, but those who encounter him feel a wave of sorrow, as though he carries the weight of ancient guilt. Others tell of a woman in a black dress who appears suddenly in the rooms, her face twisted in anguish. She is thought to be Engrina Pengusick, who poisoned her abusive husband, only to die herself in mysterious circumstances. The night is another presence. Witnesses describe a man in armour, sometimes standing guard at the stairwell, other times walking straight through the walls. Could he be one of the castle's defenders, or perhaps a restless ancestor bound to his ancestral seat? In 1972, paranormal investigators held a vigil here. They reported thuds, scratching sounds, and objects moving of their own accord. One investigator claimed he saw a shadow pass across the room, though no one else was there. The castle is now privately owned, but its haunted reputation continues to draw interest. Even those who enter in broad daylight speak of a strange heaviness, as though unseen eyes are always watching. For our final stop, we step back further still, to a time before castles and kings. On the southern coast of Cornwall, near the village of St. Byron, stands the Merry Maiden stone circle. 19 granite pillars form a perfect ring, each one said to be a maiden turned to stone. The legend tells us that these women dared to dance on a Sunday, defying the church. For their sin, they were frozen where they stood, locked in stone forever. The pipers who played their music were turned into 2 tall stones that stood nearby. Folklore claims that on moonlit nights, the stones sometimes move, slowly inching around the circle. Some say they dance once more, their granite bodies swaying in time to music only they can hear. Witnesses have reported strange lights hovering above the stones, or hearing the faint sound of pipes carried on the wind. One local farmer in 19th century swore he saw the stones glowing with a pale light, though when he returned by day, they were cold and grey once more. The site has long been considered a place of power. Pagans and druids still gather here, believing the circle holds energy from the earth itself. But others avoid it after dark, saying the atmosphere is heavy, the silence oppressive, as though the stones themselves are watching. To stand among the Merry Maidens is to stand on the threshold of myth. The line between story and haunting blurs, just as it does across all of Cornwall. Our tour is at an end. We have wandered from inns to jails, from castles to stone circles. We have heard the footsteps of smugglers and the cries of the condemned, the whispers of an Arthurian legend, and the mournful silence of ancient stones. Cornwall is a place where beauty and darkness walk hand in hand, where every ruin holds a secret, every moor hides a shadow, and every wave that crashes against the cliffs might be carrying the voice of the past. So if you ever find yourself here, wandering the moors or standing before the sea, listen carefully. You may just hear the echoes of those who never left. And if you enjoyed this haunted journey, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It helps keep the shadows alive and ensures you never miss the next story. After all, when the night is quiet and you hear a creak on the stairs or a whisper you can't quite explain, ask yourself the question we always return to. What's that behind you?